We felt it's necessary to really look at Edo again and tell ourselves whether we will see something different. The confidence in INEC, not just the commissioners, but also the staff, is at the lowest level. More reports are coming out from Edo that shows clearly that the reports in IRF are now being, the certified true copies are no longer reflecting the results cited immediately after the election. So we are seeing now that whereas the IRF was, as at the day of election, as at the day election closed, it was very clear there was much discrepancy in IRF. Now, if you look again, some of the votes that ought to be cancelled, those who are overvoting and those not certified by proper accreditation, that margin totally wiped off. At least without any further allegation, it should require some kind of rerun for those areas. Okay, how should the courts respond to these alleged absurdities and abnormalities? And let me say it clear: if you don't do justice in a Edo case that's glaring, there's no guarantee that there will be justice in Ondo or justice in 2024. I'm happy that some of the people who observe these elections are here. There's no doubt about the data is clear.
It's painful that in 2024 we are still talking about brazen impunity, abuse of power, this level of reckless abuse, right? Subjecting the people to untold hardship. What's the essence of allocating several funds, taxpayers' money, into elections, whereas you are going to have a selection, so to speak? Because I knew, of course, that the boasting that these guys had, the way they boasted before the elections, it sounded as if I was asking myself, who are the people in Edo to vote you? Oh, Obaseki is not liked. He has offended this, offended that. Let the people decide, because the fact remains very clear. Yes, a few persons were angry against Obaseki. I particularly was. But when I saw the dons they produced as candidates, I knew there was no option for the PDP candidate, for example. And I said it very clearly. As much as I had no issues with the Labour candidate, I said, this guy did not have what it takes to win this election. I don't want to believe, I've said it before, that it was a deliberate distraction that was created to reduce the vote of the people. That's what was it. Now you want to defeat the guy, you have to do this kind of brazen impunity or abuse, as in manipulation that is kindergarten. I have to say, should go for it. That's the opposite side, that's the flip side. When you say manipulation is kindergarten for everybody to see, it is also saying should go for it, nothing can happen. Unfortunately, I've lost hope. Sincerely, but there are a few persons who are saying that the court, unfortunately, the person sitting currently presiding over this rubbish, is Adams Oshiomhole, who just a few years ago in 2008 had to wait for the court to give him his mandate. And then the PDP candidates, of course, in the same scenario as it were now. Olusegun Obasanjo was president, or was going to leave office as president, and then he said he had an agreement with a few persons from his late wife's hometown, and he wanted to give them the next governor. But he brought somebody that was not popular. And of course, Adams Oshiomhole had his own at that time, and then defeated him in the election. But of course, INEC went on to call Saremi Osubo as governor, and then he went to court. At that time, the advantage we had, if it was Olusegun Obasanjo that was still president, there was nothing that happened. We had an advantage of having Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, whose part of his very cardinal objective of governance, beyond anything else, was rule of law, separation of power, and due process. He removed his hands particularly from infringing in the judicial process, and then it became beneficial to a lot of people. Olusegun Mimiko of Ondo State, Adams Oshiomhole, and a few other persons got, even Rotimi Amaechi got privilege of this separation of power and due process that the then president had as part of his things to restore the sanity of our systems in this country. Of course, he himself had agreed that the election that brought him to power has some irregularities. Unfortunately, we are not. I could remember on the eve of this election, I was speaking with a friend of mine, and he said, we need to fight. This is looking like the election is rigged. I said, no. He said, no. The man in office as president is not a Democrat. And that struck me. At that point, it became clear that, see, unfortunately, there are people who are going to sing and dance and pray and say, hey, they won an election. You didn't win an election. Ogbewolo did not win the election to become a governor of Edo State. the brazen impunity and abuse. This abuse is insulting to the Edo people. I don't care to know if you don't like Obaseki, but they should have defeated him in the polls. If they could not have defeated him, it means that whatever analogy or narrative was in the public place was false. Because if you say a man has offended everybody, let everybody vote him out or vote his candidate out. Unfortunately, this is where we are. He's abusive as in his mess. And Nigeria will see come. See, let's stop anything we are doing. Let's stop all these protests for anything governance until we fix our electoral system. Let's allow Tinubu and his soul. Let them just be selecting themselves. Let's not waste our time. That's all. Catch another time.
I'm happy that some of the people who observe these elections are here. There's no doubt about the data is clear. There was high-level manipulation of those results. Let's not forget the vote buying or the printing of result sheets. Even the results declared are different from the ones available now. The ones on the IRF were different from the ones declared. Many of the places where there are double, double vote, overvoting, that ought to have been cancelled, have now been rectified in the CDC of the results. Now we have seen that the Edo result was declared with result different from IRF. IRF had about 8,000 difference. The result declared was about 42,000 difference. Now, it means that at the minimum, there was no clear winner with all the overvoting, all the results that should have been cancelled. Two, even now, the results for the IRF and the certified true copies are different results. So the question then is, I want to see the court exercise more capacity to second guess this INEC's manipulated election. If Edo says true, as Kogi said true, as Simo said true, 2027, you can't guarantee participation. You're talking about low voter turnout. Why will voters go? Look at the number who voted in Edo. About 20% of elected voters. Now, it will go to 10% in the future because the moral climate now is that nothing can be done.
Yes.
They capture INEC, they capture the police. Like I said in the first place, I said the strategy to rig election to win is capture INEC, capture judiciary, capture the security. Now, if this capture is complete, because the courts are not cancelling bad results, there will be nobody who will go and vote.